Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today is Wednesday, October the 23rd, 2024, and the time now is 2:43 p.m. So, I want to talk briefly or provide a brief statement or brief comment concerning BRICS. So far this week, between October the 22nd to October the 24th, there is a summit, BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia. So I want to provide a brief statement or comment. Therefore, this is the first video for the BRICS playlist. Now, friends, if you are new to this channel, The Echoing Voice, this is how it is set up. As you can see, or as you have noticed by now, there are too many playlists on this channel. Each country will have two playlists. One playlist will be name or title, the country's name, and the other, domestic, the country's name. So the playlist, the country's name, will feature programs, videos, or talk that specifically focus on the country's geopolitical position, the country's interaction with other countries in its region and throughout the world. And then the domestic, the country's name series or domestic, the country's name playlist will focus on programs, videos, or talks that specifically focus or echo or examine the domestic situation in the individual countries. Whether we are talking about economics, infrastructures, academics, employment, and so on and so on. In addition to the various countries throughout the world, prominent institutions or organizations such as the United Nations, BRICS, will also have their playlist. And therefore, as I've said earlier, this video is basically focusing on BRICS. Now, friends, BRICS was created as an alternative financial/economic institution to those financial/economic institutions that are led by the United States, governed and controlled by the West, such as the IMF, World Bank, and so on and so on and so on. There are those who are saying or asking whether BRICS is an anti-West institution. That is not the case. If you believe that BRICS is an anti-West institution, one, it shows that you are biased, and it shows that you're coming from the Western militaristic camp, and you've already seen the rest of the world and the rest of the BRICS participant as anti-West. Now, BRICS originally had 4 members. We are talking about B for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, and C for China. And then later on, South Africa joined. Its name is abbreviated. It's an abbreviation. We are talking about B for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, and S for South Africa. Of course, BRICS has become BRICS Plus because so far, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran become members of BRICS. And there are so many countries that are making bids to join the organization. Now, these countries, because they are weak and they are powerless, because the West may not like them, they are projected on Western media as anti-West. But these countries are running away from the West and are running to join BRICS because of fear of what the West has done to them or has been doing. So far, since the war started in Ukraine, it is said that the West has placed over 6,000 sanctions on Russia. It is a big deal, and we notice that because Russia is one of the richer and powerful countries. However, it is not the first time for the West to place sanctions. African countries and countries throughout the global south, the weaker countries, they've often been bombarded with sanctions. And these countries' economies have been destroyed because of that. But these sanctions recently are not working against Russia because Russia is much richer and powerful. And Russia has a powerful country as friends, such as China. But countries are running to join BRICS because of fear that what has happened to Russia could happen to them. And what is happening is basically a security option The countries around the world are rushing to join BRICS because they fear that when the West begin to rain down sanctions on them, it is going to lead to their destruction. But now, friends, I want to talk about some of the symbolisms that I observe as I watch videos of the BRICS summit. One being that whenever there is a massive, a very significant international event going on, such as economics, finance, and so on, the West, and I'm talking about the conceptual, the white West, often dominate these activities or events. These guys come in there with their crisp suits and they look like they've conquered the world. They act like they've conquered the world. But the images that I'm seeing, the people that I'm looking at, the representatives that I'm looking at, they appear, there is this vibe that I'm getting from the BRICS summit that look or seem as if, BRICS is full of downtrodders, countries that had either been irrelevant or that has been mistreated, and they decided to do something, to take matters in their own hands as a means to solve their problem. It is very strange. I don't think I would have ever seen anything like this, a massive international event, or activity, and the conceptual white West isn't invited or isn't in a dominating position. But looking at all these guys, from Vladimir Putin, yes, the president of Brazil did not attend due to medical reason, but China's Xi Jinping attended. South Africa, Ramaphosa attended. The new president of Iran attended, and so on and so on. The president of Ethiopia, the president of Egypt, all attended. This is a very profound changes that is happening in the world, and I do believe everyone should take notice. Of course, friends, BRICS is here to stay. However, in order for BRICS to stay, in order for BRICS to remain relevant, BRICS is going to have to play the Western game. Basically, throw Western shoes at the West. The West has done nothing but to monopolize and militarize economics and finance. BRICS, to an extent, will have to do that in order to become relevant and to stay. BRICS is going to have to militarize its activities or some of its activities against the West in favor of the South, the global South, because the conceptual West, European countries, and the United States, I do believe, will continue to try to assert their dominance economically and in other spheres of international relations. Now, do we think, or can we say that BRICS is going to eclipse the Western financial and economic institutions? I do not think that is possible. And the reason for that is because the West controls the resources of the world. For example, friends, Western countries and financial and economic institutions do control African countries and governments and the resources of the various African countries. This reality is the security for the West, economically and financially. As long as the West controls Africa and other countries, resource-rich countries in the global South that are poor financially and economically, but in terms of resources, they are rich. As long as the West controls Africa and these countries, the West is going to remain relevant as a means to be relevant in international relations and also as a viable opponent, as a strong opponent to BRICS. Therefore, in order for BRICS to remain relevant and in order for BRICS to checkmate the West, in order for BRICS to eclipse the West, BRICS is going to have to liberate Africa financially and economically, and in terms of Africa's social and political situation. But then the question is BRICS ready to do so, especially the richer and powerful countries in BRICS? Meaning that if they liberate Africa, their economies could be dwarfed by Africa and the rest of the poor countries in the global South. Now, my friends, one significant symbolism that I notice as I watch videos from the BRICS summit regarding Africa And I'm talking specifically about the presence of two giants of Africa, Ethiopia and Egypt. Two countries, important countries in Africa, that currently are butting heads. They are butting heads fiercely, and there are many who are predicting that they could go to war. And they are present as new members in BRICS. Perhaps their membership in BRICS could help solve the issue, the crisis between Ethiopia and Egypt. But what is also significant is that the absolute giant of Africa, Nigeria, is not present in BRICS. To an extent, it seems as if the Nigerian leadership is very much content in keeping Nigeria irrelevant. And it seems perhaps this irrelevancy of Nigeria or this irrelevancy of Africa is what keeps many of African leaders in power and in their position. Because as long as their country and the continent remains irrelevant, they maintain their leadership, their position. Once Africa gains relevancy, it means that mediocrity is no longer acceptable and these guys will be out of jobs. Now, my friends, we are in a very turbulent times. We are seeing what's happening in Ukraine between the West and Russia, and the West using Ukrainian bodies to fight the Russians. We are seeing what is happening in the Middle East, in Gaza, in the West Bank, and in Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and the potential war between Israel and Iran. Right now, we await Israel's retaliation against Iran. Will the Israelis attack Iranian oil facilities, which in this case will basically jerk up the price of oil? Or will they attack Iranian nuclear facilities, which could prompt Iran to retaliate massively? And who knows, perhaps we are at the end times. I mean the end of the world. And I'm not talking about the biblical prediction. I'm talking about our willingness as humans, as mankind, to destroy one another and destroy ourselves. And we are seeing the rise of BRICS, which could gain relevancy beyond what everyone is predicting and could basically eclipse the West. For the first time, we are seeing a unified West, at least under the umbrella of the United States. Following the end of the Roman Empire, the Catholic Church basically rose to become the head of Europe, basically was the umbrella that covered all of Europe. Today, we are seeing the West under the umbrella, the protection or the guise of the United States, act as if they are an empire, a formidable empire, and they are basically throwing everything in the faces of mankind without caring. We are in a terrible times, my friends. We are in a very terrible times. We are in a turbulent times. Therefore, once again, for the many times, we all need to engage in a conversation. We all need to be very patient, but we all need to pay attention and we all need to be very concerned about what is happening. Now, my friends, I'm going to end here. I want to hear what you think and please tell me what you think. But most importantly, I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community. And I want to thank you also, friends, a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.